The metal gate to the Mountain Ridge Animal Shelter creaked open, casting a low wind across the snow-covered hills of North Colorado Springs. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above the rows of kennels, each one holding a hopeful pair of eyes. However, in the farthest corner of the facility, past the barking and pacing, lay a lifeless 9-year-old German shepherd named Shadow. His thick fur clung to his body in dull patches, and his once vibrant coat had dimmed due to time and abandonment. A faint scar traced along his right flank, barely visible beneath the tangled coat, but what truly affected Shadow the most. His eyes, which were distant and glassy, stared at nothing and everything at once, like a soldier stuck on a battlefield long after the war had ended, were the most damaged part of his body. As time went on, he stayed in the same position, head down, ears still, and heart closed. The staff at the shelter whispered quietly, worried that he might be waiting for someone, or that he may have already given up. They suspected that he had a military background, based on his behavior even in stillness, which hinted at structure training and a fall from something greater. But without paperwork or a chip, all they could do was speculate and wait. Shadow's time was running out, and if no one claimed him, the protocol was painfully clear. So, there he lay, a broken soul among many others, existing but not truly living. Outside Emma Harper's cabin, on the outskirts of Denver, the snow fell in slow, lazy spirals. Inside, the flickering light of the fireplace cast. Max was his name. Almost 5 years had passed since the catastrophic international assignment that led to the shooting of that image. The military declared Max lost after she was ambushed and his leash slipped from her grasp amidst the smoke and firing. They searched for days, but to no avail. The ache and absence never dwindled that night as Emma aimlessly scrolled across a local shelter's adoption page. Her finger froze on a familiar shape. The dog's name was Shadow, but what really caught her eye were the curves of his back and eyes. Emma had never accepted that she now spent her days working as a dog behaviorist, helping others rebuild bonds she herself had lost. It was unmistakably him, with his deep, hollow voice and that tiny scar over his side. With a racing heart, Emma snatched her coat keys and strode out into the snow, as if just saying Max's name might instantly bring him to life on screen. As Emma stepped through the glass doors of the Mountain Ridge Animal Shelter just after midnight, the receptionist was startled by the sight of a snow-covered figure standing before her. "I need to see the German Shepherd." Somewhere in the depths of her heart, she held onto the hope that her partner was still there, waiting. Even though she was in the midst of a storm, the 2-hour trip to the shelter was no longer an obstacle. Emma mentioned that Shadow is stable, but her voice was strained. As she walked by rows of kennels where canines bark, Emma's feet hardly made a sound on the concrete floor. "He is in the back cage 27, but the staff member paused and nodded to let you know that he doesn't respond to people and seldom moves." Emma remained silent. Emma stood still in front of the cage, her heart pounding so loudly that it hurt. She struggled to find the words to express herself, her breath obscuring the space between them until she finally managed to murmur. In the furthest corner, just as the listing had said, tails wagged in a hopeful manner. She lowered herself softly, keeping her face flush with the mesh wire, and Max did nothing. "You are Max." With her fingertips pressed against the bars, Emma could feel the tears welling up in her eyes. There was a very slight ear twitch from the dog. Then it hit you. "Welling, you remember me. Max is here as a buddy, and I'm here." As he lifted his head to look into hers, Shadow seemed to sense a familiarity in her gaze. After Emma's tears, one of them said, "He's never done this before." He broke free, advanced, and wagged his tail once, then twice, more forcefully. He stood up clumsily, his whole body quivering. With a gentle yet heavy breath, he smelled the air twice. Her voice shaking, Emma stated, "He's not Shadow. I'm bringing him home." As they pulled up to Emma's cabin, Emma couldn't tear her eyes away from the passenger seat, where Shadow sat, attentive but composed. She chose not to talk. Simply having him there was enough. While driving back to Denver, Max is mine. Soft snowflakes float inside the car under the headlights like ghostly specters. The couch, carpeting, and subtle cedarwood aroma were all the same. After pausing by the fireplace, he smelled the corner of the old armchair where he used to snuggle up. A flicker of remembrance pricked his ears, and he bent down to welcome Max home. Emma may have left a bowl of water nearby. Holding her breath, Emma cautiously entered the front door. For the first time in years, Max began to respond to commands. A quiet, almost reverent stillness was achieved by a simple sit that garnered a soft thud of cooperation. In the days that followed, she mumbled under her breath as something miraculous started to happen. As Emma slept one night, he took a seat beside her. As she would awaken from her dreams, she would be reassured by his presence in a manner that no therapist could. Max would watch over her in silence, his head resting on the edge of the mattress. They never spoke or required a break. Memorial Lake Park had a crystal-clear morning that day, with a profound winter calm that seemed to pause time itself. Walking pathways were covered in snow, and the lake's surface shimmered behind a coating of ice. As time passed, spirits gradually recollected how to coexist once more. Emma delicately slipped one hand inside her pocket while she clung firmly to Shadow's leash. Children played along the tree line, laughing and hurling snowballs into the air, but no one paid attention to the lake since the park was deserted. A few families and joggers strolled past. Shadow froze, his nose slightly arched, and his ears pricked up before he let out a deep, biting growl. Shadow shouted at Ed, yanked the leash from Emma's fingers, and bolted for the lake before Emma could even react. In the distance, she could see a little fragment of broken ice shining where it had split, and she felt her breath catch in her throat as she followed him. A child of no more than 6 or 7 years old was helplessly wriggling around in the icy water, his pale face betraying his helplessness, as no one else had come to his assistance. Emma pointed to the child Shadow, and he stepped carefully onto the ice, moving quickly but with caution. All of his training had prepared him for this moment, but there were no orders, just love and urgency. The ice cracked under Shadow's weight, sending sharp cracks outward like veins of warning, but he still didn't hesitate, not even when a sharp shard sliced across his front leg, staining the otherwise white surface with blood. Carefully lowering himself to the ice he had in his jaws with little power he had left, he stretched out to the youngster with one more push. Out of the frigid water his corpse started to slide. Little did anybody notice as the boy delicately slipped his little hands over the frozen edge's pale lips, moving at a snail's pace. The boy's wounded leg quivered under his weight as the cut deepened with each pull, but Shadow continued to dig in, dragging him onto thicker ice. The cold ate into his body, slowing him down, but his eyes stayed fixed, determined, and unwavering until the boy was entirely out of the water. A low, pained growl rumbled from his throat. As Shadow's legs gave out from under him, he fell beside the youngster, gasping and bleeding, but still maintaining a protecting paw on the boy's chest. At that moment, people started shouting, drawn from the nearby tree line by the sound of distant cries. Emma arrived ahead of schedule. Emma knelt down on her knees, her boots slipping across the snowy path. Her gaze darted from the boy, who was shivering and soaked, to Shadow, who lay motionless next to him. Someone whispered behind her that the dog had rescued him, and Emma's hands trembled as she removed her coat, wrapping it around Shadow's body. Shadow's blood soaked the fabric, and she stared into Shadow's barely open eyes, as if waiting for confirmation that he was alive. She whispered, choking back tears, and added, "You held on." Paramedics hurriedly entered Memorial Lake Park as the boy, who was tightly wrapped in thermal blankets, was lifted onto a stretcher. His fingers trembled and his lips were blue, but he was conscious and blinking and breathing and alive. Shadow blinked once, slowly and deliberately, signaling the completion of the mission. Emma remained close to Shadow as he lay still in her arms. Her coat had a profound crimson mark from the intermittent and shallow bleeding that persisted from the wound on his leg. "We will take him to the animal hospital, but he must depart quickly," so one of the EMTs knelt by her side. "Feel free to do what you need to do," she said furiously. An oxygen mask delicately rested on Shadow's nose as he was hoisted onto an alternative stretcher, enveloped in cozy blankets. Because Emma sat in the back of the ambulance and never let go of his fur while they were at the animal hospital, his gait changed. Hope slipped through her fingers a second time while she sat alone in the waiting room, unwilling to let go. Eventually, a veterinarian with a lowered mask and weary but calm eyes came out. The vet said that Hope had lost a lot of blood and that the cold had pushed his body to the brink, but that he is fighting. Minutes seemed like forever. A couple entered the hospital that night, visibly shaken, but with gratitude streaming from their faces. The woman's eyes were red from crying, and the man held a small woolen scarf. Later that night, Emma nodded, her tired eyes streaming down her cheeks. "You're the one with the dog," the father whispered softly. Shadow is more than simply a dog. He sat there, shrouded in blankets and bandages, breathing quietly. The hero dog who rescued our child. Emma climbed up the stairs carefully, and her mother wrapped her arms around her as she thanked her. Emma said softly, "He's a soldier, and he never left the battlefield." Word spread quickly, not through headlines or viral videos, but through the quiet murmur of those who had witnessed something they'd never forget. At the local park, regular visitors now paused near the lake's edge, eyes lingering on the spot where a child nearly died, and where a dog, bleeding and aging, had saved a life. Without waiting to be asked, at the vet hospital, nurses took turns sitting with Shadow during his recovery. Even the most stoic techs found themselves talking to him, thanking him in quiet moments. Back at home, Emma placed a new tag on his collar. It read simply, "Shadow, Guardian Fighter, Family." She didn't need medals. He didn't need praise. Every breath he took, every step he managed to take again, was more than enough. The scar on his leg would stay, a mark of his bravery, a reminder of what he gave without hesitation. One morning, as Shadow rested with his head on Emma's lap by the window, she looked down and placed to the whispered, "You didn't just save him. You reminded me why I'm still here." The snow started falling again, this time for aesthetic reasons rather than survival. The days got longer, and as spring slowly made its way into Colorado, the snow started to melt, exposing patches of greenery that had been hidden behind the frost. It was as if nature had chosen to start over. While Shadow's leg was bandaged, it still bore the marks of age and injury, and Emma hadn't laid eyes on him in years, not since before the war, not even before she lost him. On a tranquil day, they lounged on the porch and watched the faraway hills tremble like the ocean. A soft breeze blew, birdsong resounded among the strewn trees. Emma gently ran her fingers through Shadow's fur as he rested his head on her foot. "You came back," she whispered, "and you brought me back with you." In that stillness, they had discovered healing. Not through forgetting, but through remembering, through staying, through love that never asked for anything in return. No grand declarations, no final battles, just the kind of silence that says it all. Emma had no idea how much time they had left together, but she was certain that they would weather any storm. Some ties once severed don't shatter. Instead, they wait patiently, survive, and eventually, when the time is right, they return home, where they are whole again. If you like second chances and loyalty love as much as we do, we would be delighted to hear your thoughts on Shadow's journey in the comments section. Much obliged for watching. We hope to see you in a next video. Do not forget to subscribe for more heart-wrenching stories, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with someone who could need some inspiration.